In the glittering heart of Seattle, where skyscrapers pierce the clouds, Horizon Innovations teeters on the edge of oblivion. A billion-dollar tech empire. Its revolutionary software, meant to redefine global finance, crashes relentlessly, bleeding millions daily. CEO Laura Bennett, a titan of industry, faces ruin as her elite team of engineers, paid fortunes, fails to stem the tide. Investors circle like vultures, and whispers of betrayal echo through the glass-walled boardroom. Yet, in the shadows of this corporate colossus, a night janitor named James Carter mops the floors, his calloused hands hiding a secret that could save or destroy everything. Once a software genius, James was broken by tragedy. His brilliance buried under a janitor's uniform to save his dying son. Now, as Horizon's collapse looms, James overhears fragments of despair, technical jargon that sparks a flicker of recognition. He knows the flaw, the solution, the truth. But to step into the light risks exposing his past and losing the fragile life he's built. Will he remain invisible? Or will he rise to rewrite his destiny and save an empire? The clock is ticking, and the stakes are life itself. The 50th floor of Horizon Innovations' Seattle headquarters buzzed with a tension so palpable it seemed to hum alongside the servers. Laura Bennett, CEO and architect of a billion-dollar fintech empire, stood at the head of a sleek conference table, her sharp green eyes scanning the room. 10 of the world's top engineers, each costing six figures, sat before her, their faces a mix of exhaustion and defeat. For 8 months, Horizon's flagship software, a platform designed to revolutionize global banking, had crashed every time it launched, draining $3 million and counting. Investors were furious, threatening to pull funding, and the board was whispering about replacing Laura. Her perfectly tailored suit couldn't hide the strain in her posture as she slammed a report onto the table. Let me be clear, Laura's voice sliced through the silence, cold and precise. We've spent millions, and not one of you can tell me why our system fails. Our competitors are circling, and our clients are jumping ship. You have 72 hours to fix this, or I'll fire every single one of you, starting with you, Dr. Foster. Dr. Alan Foster, Horizon's lead systems architect with a PhD from Stanford, adjusted his glasses nervously. Ms. Bennett, the issue is unprecedented. The code is flawless on paper, but the infrastructure. No excuses. Laura snapped, cutting him off. Our clients expect a launch by Friday. If we miss it, Horizon is finished. She paced to the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle's skyline sprawling below, oblivious to the chaos threatening to topple one of its brightest stars. The engineers exchanged glances, their laptops open to endless diagnostics, all useless. They'd rebuilt servers, rewritten code, even flown in consultants from Singapore. Nothing worked. The room emptied as the team scrambled to meet the deadline, but despair clung to them like damp fog. Laura lingered by the window, her reflection stark against the glass. She'd built Horizon from a garage startup, defying skeptics who said a woman couldn't lead in tech. Now, her empire was crumbling, and the weight of 2,000 employees' livelihoods pressed on her chest. Her phone buzzed, an angry investor demanding answers. She ignored it, staring at the city below, where people lived simpler lives, free from the burdens of ambition. She envied them. Unbeknownst to Laura, 50 floors below, a man in a faded janitor's uniform pushed a mop across the lobby's marble floor. James Carter, invisible to the executives who passed him daily, was no ordinary cleaner. His sharp mind, honed by years as a software engineer, churned with fragments of conversations he'd overheard, technical terms like data synchronization and cascade failure. James had been listening, piecing together the puzzle no one else could solve. His calloused hands gripped the mop handle, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Wrestling with a decision that could upend the careful life he'd built for his son, Ethan. The clock ticked closer to Friday, and Horizon's fate hung in the balance, tethered to a man no one noticed. James knew the truth, but revealing it meant risking everything: his anonymity, his stability, his son's fragile health. As the city lights flickered on, he glanced up at the glowing 50th floor, where Laura stood, unaware that her salvation was mopping her floors. James Carter pushed his mop bucket across Horizon Innovations' pristine lobby, the rhythmic slosh of water a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding 50 floors above. At 38, his lean frame and weathered hands spoke of a life ground down by hardship. But his hazel eyes burned with a quiet intensity. For 3 years, he'd cleaned these floors, invisible to the executives who strode past. Yet, beneath his faded uniform lay a secret. James was once a rising star at Quantum Dynamics, a software engineer whose innovations powered global markets. That life ended when his wife died, and their son, Ethan, was diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder requiring treatments insurance wouldn't cover. Medical bills devoured James's savings, and when Quantum downsized, he became unhireable, too desperate, too risky. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford, so he traded his corner office for a janitor's closet to keep Ethan alive. Every morning, James dropped Ethan at Lincoln Middle School, the boy's frail frame dwarfed by a backpack stuffed with books and dreams. "Dad, don't forget my science fair next Wednesday," Ethan said, his voice weak but bright, hugging James before limping to class. James's heart ached with love and guilt. The science fair meant missing a shift, less money for Ethan's $4,000 monthly treatments. But his son's smile was worth every sacrifice. Ethan, 11, was brilliant, teaching himself coding on a battered laptop, unaware his father scrubbed floors to fund his future. At Horizon, James's night shifts were a study in solitude, but they gave him something else: access to conversations. Executives and engineers, assuming the janitor was deaf to their jargon, discussed the software crisis openly. In the elevators, James caught phrases like synchronization failure and data overflow. In the break rooms, he overheard Dr. Foster's team lamenting dead-end diagnostics. His mind, still sharp from years of coding, pieced together their puzzle. He knew the crash stemmed from a flaw in the data synchronization protocol, a problem he'd solved at Quantum a decade ago. Yet, James hesitated. Revealing his expertise risked exposure. If he failed, he'd lose his job, Ethan's insurance, everything. He mopped the executive washroom on the 20th floor, overhearing two developers, Sarah and Jake, venting. "It's like the system's cursed," Sarah said, scrubbing her hands. "Foster thinks it's hardware. But we've swapped it all." Jake sighed. "We're missing something basic, and it's killing us." James's grip tightened on his cleaning spray. He could fix this in minutes. But the cost of stepping forward felt like a gamble with Ethan's life. As he finished his rounds, the lobby darkened, Seattle's skyline glittering beyond the glass. James paused, staring at the 50th floor, where Laura Bennett's silhouette lingered. He'd seen her exhaustion, her fear, mirroring his own. For 3 years, he'd been invisible, his talents buried to protect Ethan. But Ethan's latest hospital visit had drained their savings, and his son's dreams, of coding, of a future, hung by a thread. James had 15 minutes to decide: stay hidden and safe, or risk everything to reclaim the man he'd been. The mop handle felt heavy in his hands, a symbol of his past surrender. Tomorrow, he would step out of the shadows, carrying a secret that could save an empire or end his own. James Carter's mop glided across Horizon Innovation's lobby, but his mind was 50 floors up, dissecting the fragments of technical chatter he'd collected. For weeks, he'd overheard Horizon's engineers grappling with the software crash, their jargon painting a vivid picture. In the elevator, Dr. Alan Foster muttered about data bottlenecks. In the cafeteria, junior developer Jake groaned about synchronization errors. Last night, in the 30th floor break room, Sarah, a senior coder, snapped, "It's not the code, it's the system choking on itself." James's pulse quickened. He knew this problem. At Quantum Dynamics, he debugged a similar issue. A data synchronization protocol failing under high load, causing a cascade shutdown. Horizon's platform, designed for global banking, was drowning in its own complexity. As he cleaned the 20th floor executive washroom, James overheard Jake and Sarah again. "Foster's team replaced the servers again," Jake said, tossing a coffee cup. "No change. It crashes every launch." Sarah slammed her laptop shut. "It's like the data's fighting itself. Foster's out of ideas, and Laura's ready to fire us all." James froze, his cleaning spray poised. The flaw was clear. The synchronization protocol couldn't handle simultaneous data requests during initialization, triggering a system-wide failure. He could fix it in 15 minutes by staggering the requests and tweaking the timeout settings. But knowing wasn't enough. James's heart pounded with the weight of his dilemma. Revealing his expertise meant exposing his past, a risk that could cost him his job, Ethan's insurance, and their fragile stability. Ethan's latest hospital bill, $6,000, loomed like a guillotine. Last week, Ethan had coded a game on his laptop, his eyes bright despite his fatigue, saying, "Dad, I want to build systems like you used to." James hadn't told him the truth. His father was a janitor, not a maintenance engineer. The lie protected Ethan's dreams, but it burned James's soul. He mopped faster, wrestling with fear. If he spoke up and failed, Laura Bennett might fire him for overstepping. If he succeeded, his past at Quantum, marred by his desperate exit, might unravel, branding him a liability. Yet, Horizon's collapse would mean layoffs. And James couldn't afford to lose this job. Ethan's next treatment was in 2 weeks, and their savings were gone. The solution burned in his mind, a lifeline for Horizon and maybe for himself. As he emptied a trash can, James recalled a Quantum project where he'd staggered data flows to save a client's system. The logic was identical. He sketched the fix on a napkin during his break. Adjust the protocol to queue requests, add a 0.2-second delay, recalibrate the timeout. It was simple, elegant, and certain. But certainty didn't erase the risk. If he stayed silent, Horizon might fail, and Ethan's future would remain a patchwork of sacrifices. If he acted, he might reclaim his life, or lose everything. The lobby clock struck 2 a.m. Seattle's skyline a silent witness. James looked up at the 50th floor, where Laura's office light still burned. He had until morning to decide. His mop slowed, his decision crystallizing. Ethan deserved a father who fought, not one who hid. Tomorrow, James would step out of the shadows, carrying a napkin sketch that could save an empire or end his own. James Carter stood in Horizon Innovations' lobby at 7 a.m., his janitor's uniform feeling like a disguise about to be shed. The napkin sketch in his pocket, a blueprint to save Horizon's software, burned against his thigh. He'd barely slept, haunted by Ethan's tired smile and the $6,000 hospital bill. Today, he'd risk everything. His target was Michael Reed, the night security chief, one of the few who treated James like a person. Michael's office, tucked near the loading dock, was a cluttered sanctuary of monitors and coffee mugs. James knocked, his heart racing. "Michael, I need a favor," James said, closing the door. Michael raised an eyebrow, surprised. James never asked for anything. "I need you to get a message to Laura Bennett." Michael laughed, leaning back. "You want me to tell the CEO the janitor's got her software fix?" "James, you nuts?" But James's intensity silenced him. He pulled out the napkin, its precise diagram of data flows and timeouts startlingly professional. "Tell her the crash is in the data synchronization protocol. It's choking on simultaneous requests. Stagger the launches by 0.2 seconds. Adjust the timeout." "I know it'll work." Michael stared, bewildered. "How do you know this stuff?" James hesitated, then said, "I used to be someone else. Just deliver the message." Michael, seeing the desperation in James's eyes, nodded reluctantly, dialing Laura's assistant, Claire. "This better not get us fired," he muttered. Claire thought it was a prank until Michael recited James's technical jargon verbatim. She paused, then patched him through to Laura. At 9 a.m., Laura descended to the lobby, her heels clicking like a metronome. Her tailored blazer couldn't mask her exhaustion, but her gaze was razor-sharp. "You're the janitor who thinks he can solve what my $2 million team couldn't?" Her voice dripped skepticism, arms crossed. James's hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "Yes, ma'am. Your system crashes because the synchronization protocol can't handle the data flood at launch. I can fix it in 15 minutes. Laura's eyes narrowed. "You have 30 seconds to convince me you're not wasting my time." James unfolded the napkin, explaining the bottleneck and his solution with surgical precision. "The system misreads the overload as a threat, triggering a shutdown. My fix queues the requests, preventing the crash." Laura's skepticism wavered, her business mind recognizing expertise. "You've seen this before?" she pressed. James nodded. "At Quantum Dynamics, 12 years ago. I was their lead engineer." The lobby fell silent, employees glancing over. Laura studied James, seeing not a janitor but a man with answers. "Prove it," she said, leading him to the server room. Dr. Foster, trailing behind, scoffed. "This is madness, letting a cleaner touch our systems." Laura shot him a look. "Our systems are broken, Alan. What's he going to do, mop them to death?" James sat at the terminal, his fingers dancing over the keys, implementing the fix with a fluency that stunned Foster. In 15 minutes, he stepped back. "Run the launch." Laura pressed the button. The screens flickered, then glowed green. The software launched flawlessly. Foster's jaw dropped. Laura turned to James, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," she said, her voice a mix of awe and calculation. James had saved Horizon, but at what cost to himself? Laura Bennett's office on the 50th floor of Horizon Innovations was a cathedral of glass and steel, Seattle's skyline framing her like a portrait of power. James Carter sat across from her, his janitor's uniform clashing with the leather chair's luxury. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the city below. Laura's green eyes studied James, not with skepticism now, but with the intensity of someone who'd just witnessed a miracle. In 15 minutes, he'd fixed what her $2 million team couldn't in 8 months. The software launch, flawless for the first time, had saved Horizon from collapse. But Laura saw more than a fix. She saw a man who'd rewritten her company's future. "Tell me your story, James," Laura said, her voice softer but commanding. "All of it." James exhaled, the weight of his past pressing down. "I graduated from MIT, computer science, summa cum laude. Spent 10 years at Quantum Dynamics, lead engineer. Designed systems for banks, governments. Then Ethan. My son was diagnosed with a neurological disorder. My wife died a year later. Treatments cost $4,000 a month, uninsured. I sold everything: savings, stocks, our house. Quantum downsized in 2015. No one hires a desperate man. So, I took this job for Ethan's insurance." Laura leaned forward, her own journey echoing in his words. She'd built Horizon against impossible odds. "A woman in a man's world. You've been cleaning my floors for 3 years, hearing my team fail, and said nothing. Why now?" James's hands clenched. "Ethan's treatments aren't enough. He's brilliant, codes games, dreams of MIT, but he's fading. I couldn't stay invisible anymore." His voice broke. "He needs me to be the man I was." Laura stood, walking to a photo of her first office, a cramped garage. "I started Horizon with $500 and a laptop. My first coder was a dropout hacker. I know talent, James. And you're not just talented, you're indispensable." She slid a business card across her desk. "Chief Technology Officer. $350,000 a year, equity, full health coverage, including Ethan's treatments. We have partnerships with top medical research centers. Ethan gets the best care, plus our gifted child program for his coding." James stared at the card, his hands trembling. "Ms. Bennett, I'm a janitor. You're bored. Your team, they'll never accept this." Laura's smile was fierce. "My board answers to me. You saved Horizon today. I'm betting you'll save it tomorrow." She leaned in. "One condition, total loyalty. I need you all in, James, no matter how hard it gets." He met her gaze, thinking of Ethan's latest game, coded through pain. "You'll have it, Miss Bennett. For Ethan. I'd give everything." The room felt alive with possibility, but James's joy was tempered. Accepting meant stepping into a world of scrutiny, where his past could unravel. He thought of Ethan, asleep now, unaware his father was no longer invisible. "I need to think it over," he said. Laura nodded. "Take the weekend. But know this, you didn't just fix a system. You saved my life's work." As James left, the card felt heavy in his pocket, a bridge between his past and a future he'd stopped believing in. Monday, he'd walk through Horizon's doors not as a janitor, but as a man reborn if he dared. 3 weeks into his role as Horizon Innovations CTO, James Carter stood in his new corner office. The Seattle skyline a stark contrast to the janitor's closet he'd once called home. His tailored suit felt foreign, but his mind was at ease, diving into code architecture with the fluency of his quantum days. Ethan's new treatment plan, funded by Horizon's benefits, had restored his son's energy, and his coding projects flourished in the company's gifted child program. Yet, as James reviewed a security audit, a knock shattered his calm. His assistant, David, burst in, pale and trembling, clutching a report. "Mr. Carter, you need to see this, now." The document, from Sentinel Cybersecurity, was a gut punch. Critical vulnerability detected in core data encryption system. Unauthorized access suggests a massive data breach. Source: CTO credentials. James's blood ran cold. The breach threatened Horizon's clients for major banks, 3 healthcare networks, and a federal agency. A leak could ruin millions of lives and bankrupt Horizon. The logs pointed to modifications made under James's access codes, tied to his 15-minute fix. When did this come in? He asked, voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. 20 minutes ago, David said. Ms. Bennett's in a board meeting. Sentinels demanding answers. James's mind raced. His fix had stabilized the system, but could it have created a weakness? He checked every line of code, but the accusation was damning. The boardroom, where Laura fought to defend him, was a battlefield. He called Dr. Alan Foster, the chief systems analyst who'd once scorned him. Alan, meet me in the server room. We need to trace this. Foster arrived. His earlier hostility replaced by unease. James, the logs show your credentials accessing the encryption module last week. Were you working late? No, James said, his voice firm. I haven't touched that module since the fix. Someone's using my codes. Foster frowned, studying the report. The vulnerability's real, but it's odd. Your fix exposed a flaw in a legacy encryption module, one we never tested because the system kept crashing. James's heart sank. By saving Horizon, he'd unwittingly activated a hidden time bomb. So, my fix didn't cause this, it revealed it. Foster nodded. But someone exploited it, and they used your credentials to cover their tracks. James's thoughts turned to Ethan, whose latest game had won a school award. If he lost this job, Ethan's treatments would stop. He couldn't fail him now. We need to check access logs, James said, leading Foster to the server room. The hum of machines felt ominous as they pulled up records. Suspicious accesses, all under James's name, occurred at 4 a.m., hours when he was home with Ethan. Someone set me up, James said, his voice low. But who? Foster's face hardened. This took expertise. Someone who knows our systems inside out. James's mind flashed to Sarah Coleman. The security head passed over for promotion last month. She'd been cold since his arrival, her resentment palpable. Sarah has access, James said. And motive. As they dug deeper, Laura's voice crackled through the intercom, summoning James to the boardroom. The accusation was public now, and Horizon's fate hung on his ability to prove his innocence. The server room felt like a cage, and James was running out of time to escape. James Carter stood in Horizon Innovation's server room. The hum of machines a stark reminder of the digital battlefield he faced. The Sentinel report accused him of causing a data breach, and the board was ready to crucify him. Dr. Alan Foster, once his rival, now worked beside him, their screens glowing with access logs and code. If someone framed you, James, they left tracks, Foster said, his voice steady. We just need to find them. James nodded, his mind razor-focused. Ethan's face, smiling at yesterday's science fair, drove him. Losing this job meant losing Ethan's treatments, and he'd die before letting that happen. They started with Sarah Coleman's access logs. As head of cybersecurity, she had unrestricted system access and a grudge. Passed over for a promotion. She'd barely spoken to James since his CTO appointment. Look at this, Foster said, pulling up records. Sarah accessed the legacy encryption module 6 times 2 weeks ago, during off hours. The logs call it routine maintenance, but the timestamps are manual, not automated. James's pulse quickened. She was studying my fix, looking for weaknesses to exploit. They dug deeper. Cross-referencing Sarah's actions with the unauthorized accesses under James's credentials. A pattern emerged. Every breach attempt occurred when James was logged out, his badge showing him at home. She used my codes, James said, his voice tight. But how? Foster's eyes widened. 2 weeks ago, Sarah requested a security audit of executive credentials. She could have cloned yours then. James recalled her probing questions about his quantum days, masked as casual interest. She'd been profiling him, learning his coding style to mimic it. The evidence grew. Sarah had altered a legacy module to create a buffer overflow, exploitable only under specific conditions she triggered using James's credentials. This is surgical, James said. Despite his anger. She made it look like my fix caused the breach. Foster nodded. But she slipped. The metadata shows her terminal's IP on one modification, not yours. It was a digital fingerprint, damning and clear. They found more. Encrypted files on a hidden server, containing Horizon's client data, bank records, patient files, government contracts. She was planning to sell this, Foster said, his voice grim. To our competitors. This isn't just sabotage, it's espionage. James's stomach churned. Sarah hadn't just framed him. She'd aimed to destroy Horizon, betting his janitor past would make him an easy scapegoat. Ethan's latest game, coded with joy, flashed in his mind. He couldn't let her win. With 2 hours until the board meeting, they traced Sarah's external access. A backdoor, cleverly hidden, showed data transfers to an offshore server. She's still active, James said, his fingers flying. We can lock her out now. Foster hesitated. If we're wrong, we're finished. James met his gaze. I'm not wrong. Are you with me? Foster nodded, and they sealed the back door, preserving the evidence. As they compiled logs, files, and timestamps, James felt a shift. This wasn't just about clearing his name. It was about protecting 2,000 employees, including Foster, who'd become an ally. The server room felt less like a cage now, more like a war room. James thought of Ethan, whose dreams depended on this fight. Sarah had underestimated him. But so had everyone, until now. With evidence in hand, he and Foster headed to the 50th floor, ready to expose a traitor and save an empire. The news broke like a tsunami, flooding Seattle's media and beyond. A leaked Sentinel report, splashed across tech blogs and TV, accused Horizon Innovation's new CTO, James Carter, of causing a catastrophic data breach. Janitor turned executive triggers tech disaster, screamed headlines, painting James as a reckless amateur who'd endangered millions. Social media erupted, with hashtag Horizon Fail trending and investors demanding Laura Bennett's resignation. On the 50th floor, Laura stood in her office, watching CNN dissect Horizon's stock plunge 30% in hours. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Board members, clients, reporters. The empire she'd built was crumbling, and James, her bold bet, was at the storm's center. James, in his office, felt the weight of the accusations. The report, deliberately leaked, twisted his 15-minute fix into negligence. He'd saved Horizon once, but now he was its scapegoat. Ethan's face, beaming at his science fair, haunted him. If he lost this job, Ethan's treatments would stop. Laura summoned him to the boardroom, her expression unreadable. The room was a crucible. Board members glaring, legal counsel scribbling. Marcus Tate, the board chair, leaned forward. Mr. Carter, your credentials were used to create a vulnerability. The public thinks you're a fraud. Why shouldn't we fire you? James's voice was steady. Because I didn't do this. Someone framed me, and I'm close to proving it. Tate scoffed. Close isn't enough. Our clients are threatening lawsuits. Laura raised a hand, silencing him. James, the logs are damning. Did you access the encryption module after your fix? James met her gaze. No, Miss Bennett. Someone used my codes. I suspect Sarah Coleman, and I need 3 hours to prove it. Laura's eyes searched his, torn between trust and survival. Outside, protesters gathered at Horizon's headquarters, their signs branding James a corporate con. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions as employees whispered in hallways. Laura faced a brutal choice. Fire James to appease the mob or back him and risk Horizon's collapse. She'd staked her reputation on him, but the board was circling, ready to oust her. 3 hours, she said finally, her voice tight. Find proof, or I'll have no choice but to let you go. James returned to the server room, where Dr. Foster awaited. The leak's timing is no coincidence, Foster said. Sarah resigned yesterday, effective immediately. She's covering her tracks. James's jaw clenched. Sarah had played the public perfectly, using his janitor past to fuel distrust. He thought of Ethan, unaware his father's name was being dragged through the mud. We need her external access logs, James said, diving into the system. They found encrypted communications, Sarah negotiating with a rival firm, promising Horizon's data for millions. The evidence was mounting, but the clock was merciless. Protesters' chants echoed faintly through the walls, a reminder of the stakes. James's hands shook as he compiled files. If he failed, Ethan's future, his coding, his dreams would collapse. Laura's trust, her own empire, hung on his success. Foster, now a true partner, worked tirelessly beside him. We're close, James, he said. She underestimated you. James nodded, driven by Ethan's smile and Laura's faith. The boardroom loomed, a battlefield where he'd either clear his name or lose everything. As they finalized the evidence, Seattle's skyline darkened, mirroring the storm within Horizon. James was no longer invisible. He was fighting for his life. James Carter strode into Horizon Innovation's 50th floor boardroom, his tablet loaded with evidence that could save or destroy him. The air was electric, thick with tension as Laura Bennett sat at the head, flanked by board members whose glares could cut glass. Marcus Tate, the board chair, tapped his pen impatiently, while legal counsel whispered urgently. Outside, Seattle's skyline loomed, indifferent to the drama. James's heart pounded. But Ethan's face, proud at his science fair, steadied him. Beside him, Dr. Alan Foster carried a second tablet, their hours of work condensed into digital proof. Ms. Bennett, board members. James began, his voice clear. Sarah Coleman, our former cybersecurity head, orchestrated this breach to destroy Horizon and frame me. The room erupted in skeptical murmurs. Tate leaned forward. Bold claims, Mr. Carter. Your credentials caused this disaster. James connected his tablet to the screen, displaying access logs. Sarah studied my fix, cloned my credentials, and planted a vulnerability in a legacy module. She triggered it to look like my error. He showed her off-hour accesses, manual timestamps, and the damning IP slip. She planned to sell our data, bank records, patient files to competitors for millions. Laura's eyes narrowed, her fury barely contained. Foster stepped forward. We found encrypted communications. Sarah negotiated with Apex Tech, offering Horizon secrets. James's fix didn't cause the breach. It exposed her plan by stabilizing the system. The screen showed Sarah's backdoor, sealed just in time, and data transfer attempts thwarted by James's quick action. Tate's skepticism wavered as he studied the evidence, his pen still. James's voice grew stronger. Sarah resigned yesterday, fleeing before we could connect the dots. She bet my janitor past would make me an easy scapegoat, that you'd never trust a cleaner over her expertise. He paused, meeting Laura's gaze. She was wrong. Laura stood, her presence commanding. How much data was stolen? James shook his head. None. My fix created new protocols that trapped her attempts. We saved Horizon's clients, and your company. The room fell silent, the weight of truth settling. Tate cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, this investigation required extraordinary skill. Where did you learn this? James smiled faintly. The same place I learned to save your software, Mr. Tate, at Quantum Dynamics. Building systems Sarah tried to break. Laura's voice cut through. Sarah's actions are federal crimes. I want her reported to the FBI now. She turned to James, her eyes fierce with gratitude. You didn't just clear your name, you saved us from annihilation. Foster spoke, his voice humble. I doubted James, but he's proven himself beyond titles. Horizon owes him everything. The board nodded, some reluctantly, others with awe. Laura addressed the room. James is our CTO, not because of charity, but because he's the best. This ends the witch hunt. As the meeting broke, Laura pulled James aside. You've given me my company back. Don't ever doubt your place here. James thought of Ethan, coding at home, unaware his father had just rewritten their future. The boardroom emptied, but James lingered. The skyline now aglow with dusk. Sarah had gambled on his invisibility, but she'd lost. He'd fought for Ethan, for Laura, for Horizon, and won. The protests outside faded, replaced by news of Sarah's exposure. James was no longer a janitor or a scapegoat. He was Horizon's savior and his son's hero. 6 months after the boardroom triumph, James Carter stood in Horizon Innovation's lobby, no longer pushing a mop but overseeing a bustling showcase. The marble floor, once his nightly task, now hosted the launch of Horizon's Young Innovators program, designed to nurture gifted children like his son, Ethan. At 12, Ethan stood at a podium, demonstrating a mobile app he'd coded, a budgeting tool for kids, inspired by his father's struggles. His frail frame belied his energy, restored by Horizon's medical program, which provided cutting-edge treatments for his neurological disorder. The crowd, including Laura Bennett and Dr. Alan Foster, applauded as Ethan fielded questions with poise, his eyes sparkling with dreams of MIT. James's chest swelled with pride. As CTO, he transformed Horizon's tech strategy, streamlining systems and boosting efficiency. But his true legacy was the Talent Discovery Initiative, a program he'd pitched to Laura. It sought hidden geniuses, janitors, clerks, dropouts, whose skills were overlooked by traditional hiring. You took a chance on me, he'd told Laura. Imagine how many others are out there. Laura, ever the visionary, had greenlit it, and the program was already unearthing talent across Seattle, earning Horizon global praise. Laura joined James at the back, her smile warm. Ethan's a star, James. 12, and he's outshining college interns. James laughed. He's already asking to shadow my team at 16. Laura's eyes gleamed. At this rate, he'll be CTO before you. They watched Ethan charm the crowd, his app now slated for Horizon's youth platform. James thought of the boy who'd coded through pain, unaware his father scrubbed floors. The medical program had given Ethan not just health but hope, a future without limits. Later, in his office, James reflected on Sarah Coleman's betrayal. In her FBI interrogation, she'd admitted targeting him, assuming a janitor couldn't outsmart her. "I thought no one would believe you," she'd sneered. Her plan failed because Laura saw beyond appearances, and James refused to stay invisible. Now, as Horizon thrived, James saw Sarah's mistake as a gift. It had forced him to reclaim his life. The initiative was his answer, ensuring others wouldn't need a crisis to shine. Laura knocked, holding a plaque. "James Carter, visionary leader." "For the board's annual gala," she said. "You've changed us, James, not just our tech, but our soul." He took it, thinking of Ethan's app, coated with joy. "I just wanted to save my son," he said. Laura nodded. "You did, and you saved us all." Seattle's skyline glowed beyond his window, a city of second chances. James was no longer the man who'd mopped floors unseen. He was a leader, a father, a catalyst. As Ethan ran over, clutching a certificate, James knelt. "Dad, they loved my app. Can I code another?" His son's energy, once a faint spark, now blazed. "Anything you want, Ethan," James said, hugging him. The lobby, once a symbol of his invisibility, was now a stage for their triumph. Horizon's future was bright, built on talent, trust, and the belief that anyone could rise. James caught his reflection in the marble, a man who'd stopped hiding, whose son would never have to. Together, they'd write a new story, one line of code, one dream at a time. James Carter's journey from janitor to CTO of Horizon Innovations reveals a profound truth. True potential lies beyond appearances, waiting to be unleashed by courage and opportunity. His story teaches us that adversity doesn't define us. Our response to it does. James, broken by tragedy, could have remained invisible, mopping floors to survive. Instead, he risked everything for his son, Ethan, and a company on the brink. His brilliance, hidden under a janitor's uniform, saved an empire, proving that talent thrives in unexpected places. Laura Bennett's trust, defying skeptics, shows that leadership means seeing people, not titles. Sarah Coleman's betrayal, fueled by prejudice, failed because she underestimated a man who refused to be defined by his past. Life's greatest transformations begin when we stop judging by surfaces and start believing in possibilities. This lesson is universal. We all know someone, a coworker, a neighbor, a friend, whose potential is overlooked because of their circumstances, job, or background. James's triumph reminds us that resilience and hunger drive breakthroughs, not credentials. Ethan's restored health and soaring dreams underscore that one chance can rewrite a future. Horizon's Talent Discovery Initiative, born from James's vision, challenges us to find the hidden geniuses around us, to offer them a stage, not a shadow. So, here's your call to action. Look beyond the obvious. Seek the overlooked, the underestimated, the invisible. That quiet colleague, that struggling student. That person society dismisses, they might hold the key to something extraordinary. Give them a chance, a conversation, a moment to shine. Mentor, listen, advocate. Like Laura, take a risk on someone's potential. Like James, help them rise. You don't need a billion-dollar company to change a life, just the courage to see what others miss. Start today in your workplace, your community, your home. Find one person whose talents are hidden and help them step into the light. Their success, like James's, could transform not just their world, but yours. The next great innovator might be standing right beside you, waiting for you to notice.